Hey, good morning, everyone. Tim out here on the deck today. I want to welcome you guys back to mine and Carolyn's house. Hope you enjoyed the last three videos that I made about being intimate and learning to be intimate. I hope these help you. I know they will if you'll really listen to them and get them down inside of you. And because this is the principal thing that you need in your life to have the actual true love that you want. And again, I thank you for allowing me to speak into your lives this morning. I just want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about calling those things be not as though they were. That may sound like a weird statement or not an understandable statement, those words that I said. But remember, I talked to you some time back about your conversation and how that you talk and how you speak about situations and how important that is. And the scripture is Romans 4:17 that talks about calling those things be not as though they were, uh, calling into being the things that don't exist. Now that may sound like a magical thing or whatever, but it is a law, a principle that really works. And I want to kind of share that with you too. And also the other scripture is it's Hebrews 11:1. It's faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And we want to talk about the hope for that is also to speak about those things. And I think it's very important that you do those things and speak the right words in the situations that you're in. And I've had people over the years tell me, "Well, you're lying about saying those things because they're right there in front of you." Yes, and they are. That's the true side of that as well. But what I'm saying is that you don't speak about the things that you see, uh, that the problems or maybe and since we're talking about marriage in your marriage, the problems that you see in your marriage or your relationship with your husband or your wife, and you don't speak to the problem that's happening, but you begin to speak to the answer. And that's really what calling those things be not as though they were. It's like an example I heard one time a guy was standing on his back porch and he was calling for his dog, "Hey, Rover, come. Hey, Rover, come." You know, and what he was doing, he was speaking those things that be not as though they were. He was trying to call the dog in, even though he looked out in the yard and didn't see the dog. So he was beginning to say those words because that's what he wanted to happen. And that's what I want you to understand is that your words are so important, and it's so vital in your life that you speak the answers of life, answers the problems that you're having, whether it be your marital problems or family problems or financial problems, including jobs and so forth and so on. It's very important about your conversation. Our saying has always been is that you say what you have, and you have what you say. So it's very important that you correct your speech. And like again, the wise words of my grandma always said, if you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. Even though you think about those things, it's better not to speak them out unless you can speak directly to this situation. Because what happens when you're involved in a situation and you see it happening is that if you continue to give it place, if you continue to give it view in your eyes and your thought lives and things, you empower it more to be there, and then it's much harder to get rid of. Now, I think the beautiful thing about calling those things that be not as though they were is that this is how everything came about. This is one principle that God uses in everything He did. Remember, before the foundations of the earth, that this world was a void place. And when God looked at it, he saw that it was void. But then what did he begin to do? He began to speak, "Let there be light." And so he was calling those things that be not as though they were. He was calling things into existence that wasn't there. He could see the darkness and he could see the voidness, but his conversation was that he called forth light. And that's what we want to do in our lives. We want to call forth the right things. And it's, again, that's very, very important that we do this and that we understand this. This is not lying to yourself. It's not, some people have called some of the faith movement and name it, claim it, and blab it and grab it and all that. And so you need to speak out the things that you want to happen in your life. If you want a good marriage, then you say, I'm going to have a good marriage. I'm going to work at having a good marriage. I see myself having a good marriage. I see myself loving my wife. I see myself loving my husband. I see myself loving my children. Are they acting up and acting a fool? Yeah, I can see that in my eyes, but my choice is I want that to change. So you begin to change things by the words that you say. In that scripture it talked about, Hebrews 11:1, is faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. That's the same thing. I always like to put the word in place of the word hope. Sometimes it's to spoke or to speak to the situation. So faith is the substance of things spoke for and an evidence of things not seen. There's a law there that brings those things into existence that don't even exist. And we're not talking about no magic formula. We're not talking about a hat trick, and because we know all magic and things are illusions, and we don't want to live in illusion. We want to live in the reality of what God has for us in this life. So it's very important that we do that, and I can't emphasize that enough. So watch your conversation today. I think about what the Bible says, and I always talk about the Bible because it gives me the very best examples in life and the true examples that has happened in my life. I talked about, I think one of the tapes previously, I talked about your tongue, that it says in the Bible that it had put a bit on a horse to control his head, to control his movement, and that on a ship they put a little rudder in the back. Even though it's small, is that whatever way you turn that rudder, that's the way the ship would go. And it's the same way about your tongue. It's a small member, but it's a powerful member that controls your motion, controls your direction, controls with the things that you have in your life. So be very careful with your words. You can hurt people with your words. Carol and I have always used our words to lift people up and to help them and help them feel better about themselves. And we had always said in our life that when we would visit with people and be around people, they would feel even better once they left our presence, that they got to be with us and visit with us. And it's not something that we have and that you can't use and you can't have in your life, but always look for the good side of that. Look for the things that's encouraging to people, and so it will happen. Now, those that are looking for a husband or looking for a wife and things, start using your imagination a little bit. Talk about what you want to see in them and what you want to have in them and in your husband and your wife. And so I was digging through some pictures the other day, and sometimes I hate doing that because it makes me cry, not sadness, but of joy and stuff, to see pictures that we made over the years, and especially pictures of the grandchildren and pictures of us too. And so, at this point of our story, Carol and I were promised to each other because I had gave her a promise ring. I hadn't asked her to marry me officially yet, but we had talked about marriage. But I want to show you one picture that illustrates calling those things that be not as though they were, calling those things into existence that are not there yet. I'm going to show you this picture right here, if you can see it. It's a picture of Carolyn. She's sitting at a table, and you know what she's doing? She's coloring. She liked to color. Even later on in life, she loved to get those books that had all those weird-looking objects and color in and things. And I think that by coloring that was giving creative feelings to Carolyn and ideas to Carolyn. But in this picture right here, she's at home. Carolyn is 17 years old here. And on the back of the picture, and I'll turn it around, and you see it says, Mrs. Tim Rivers, Christmas of 1970. Were you able to see that? Mrs. Tim Rivers, age 17, Christmas of 1970. Carolyn was 17 years old um, when at that time, and getting back to what I was saying about calling those things that be not they were. In that picture, Carolyn right there was calling those things that be not as though they were. That she was calling the existence what hasn't happened yet, but she was saying, um, Carolyn Rivers, Miss Tim Rivers, age 17, Christmas of 1970. Carolyn and I didn't get married until 1971. So Carolyn was already using that principle. She was beginning to call in those things. She was saying that she was going to be Mrs. Tim Rivers even in 1970, and we didn't get married in 1971. So see how important it is to say those things, and I'm so thankful that I found that picture, and I could express that to you. You know the importance of that saying, and that what the Word says, and it's written in the Word. If it wasn't written in the Word, it wouldn't be something that was factual and that you couldn't use in your life. So about this time in our life, in the Christmas of 1970, like I said, Carol and I were not married yet at that time, and I had in the summer of 1970. Like I said, I always came home during the summer and I worked and made extra money when I was in college and everything. Well, during that time is when Vietnam was going on. I think it started back in the '67 or so in those times. But we had a draft. The United States had a draft at that time, and that's how they got people in the military. They actually drafted them in the military. We don't have that now in the times that we live in now, but that's how they attained the soldiers that they needed for that time. And so at that time, I had gotten a letter during the summer. It said, now get this, what it said. It said, "Greetings and salutations. Your friends and neighbor have selected you for the selected service." I thought, I think I need to know all their their names and everything. I like to talk to them. I didn't want to do this, but I had gotten a letter that says I was selected to be part of the selective service or be in the service, and that, like I said, that was the summer of 1970, and so I was kind of caught off guard. And I always heard that if you were in college, you get a deferment, but I got that during the summer. I wasn't going to school during the summer, so that was a way that they could get me. So I talked to my dad about it, and the beautiful thing about it too was that a majority of the men in our family had been in the military before. My dad was in the Navy, and my uncle was in the Army. My grandpa was in the Army. A couple other my uncles were in the Army, and so that's where I was headed to. And so when I showed up for selective service, that would be the time that you're inducted in. So the summer, and I didn't have to report until latter part of November in a town called Liberty, Texas. It's up close to Houston, and so I didn't have to report there until that day, or that month, the latter part of that month. And so at that time, I felt like that I needed to go and find some rings for Carol and I, and then I would ask her to marry me. We had not planned on getting married until in 1971 when Carolyn would finish high school. And so I went to Zales Jewelry. I don't know if they're still in existence or not, but I'm sure they are. Fine jewelry store, and I began to look for our rings. And that was a major ordeal for me. I was praying that I find the right one that Carolyn liked, but I think I probably could give her a ring out of the Cracker Box Jack, Cracker Jack box, and she would have been just as much still in love with me as she was and now, as well as. But I was able to go and shop at Zales, and I still wear that ring, the small ring in the front right here. It used to have some ribs on it, but now it's over almost 50 years. They're kind of wore off, but I still can wear that ring. Can you believe that? And then also Carolyn later on had bought me this ring, but I still wear our ring here. And this ring right here, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I can get close enough. You can see it. This is Carolyn's wedding band and our engagement ring. And this is what I bought at Zales. And of course, I didn't have any extra money to do that, and we did like most couples, put it on where, or I did. We weren't a couple yet. Put it where I could pay it out on time, and so I did. But did you get to see that? Isn't that a beautiful ring still? Yes, it was. You know, and through the years, I changed the rings out. I think about 3 times, but we always kept this one, and Carolyn always liked wearing this one as well. So, but anyhow, I'd bought this ring, and I had to report to active duty, or really not active duty at that time, but just into the selective service meeting that we had. And of course, I went to Liberty, Texas, but I realized then that at that time that I would be inducted into the military. So what I did, the summer that I came home, I had already started exercising a lot. Of course, when I was at school, I tried to run the track and everything. And when I got home, I would run, and I kind of wanted to be a little bit more in shape than when I went into the military. Then, because Dad had told me that it was pretty rigorous and pretty demanding upon the body, So, but I always listened to my dad, what he said about certain things, because he had experience. And that's why you need to listen to me. I have the experience of life that you need to hear, and it's very important that you listen and that you gain from our story. And our story is probably not the most elaborate story that you hear, but it was based on the things I talked to you about the being intimate, and how that was the principal thing, and how that had proved out to be a thing that was really beneficial and really brought a lot of blessings to me. And I had a lot of favor in areas, and I'll show you that I'll talk to you about that as we go and talk about the military time too. So like I said, I tried to run and try to be in shape a little bit. And of course, I was, Carol and I were still dating, and I'd go see her. I'd go see her almost all the time now. And so when November came around, or actually before November came around, I went down to see Carolyn, and I had the ring, I had the engagement ring, and so I went down, and I was going to ask Carolyn to marry me at that time. And forgive me. So I went down to the old house where she lived, and walked up on those steps. And you remember my first talking about my story, how I wasn't welcome the first time by her stepdad. And I walked up those steps, and Carolyn came to the door, and she said, "Come on in." I said, "No, I have something I need to talk to you about." I said, I'm fixing to go in for basic training in the military and everything, and I said that I want to ask you to marry me. And she looked at me and said, "You're supposed to do it the right way." So I got down on my knee, and I had the ring, and then I opened the box, and I showed Carolyn that. I asked her, would she marry me, and she said, "Of course. I've been printing my name for several weeks now, Mrs. Tim Rivers, Mrs. Tim Rivers, Mrs. Tim Rivers." So she was beginning to call those things that be not as though they were. She was she married to me yet? No, but she was speaking those things that she wanted to happen in her life. And so, see, there's an example of that as well. She said that as well, and I showed you that picture. And so it's like I said, I asked her to marry me, and of course she said yes, and she was so excited, and got the ring and everything. And then Mom Corey came out. Her mom, I always called her Mom Corey, came out, and she was so excited too. And so it was a great day that day, and a day that I will never forget. I'm sorry. And so, uh, continue with the story on there. We had some funny little things that we did, and you know, when Carol and I had our parking spot that we would go and be alone, not just out behind her house or even at our house out in the yard or whatever. And so what we do, we tell Corey, so we're gonna go and spend some time alone with each other, and we wanted you to know where we were going. And you said, well, Tim, you actually told her where your parking spot was? Yes, I told her where our parking spot was. It was nothing that that we were ashamed of. And the odd thing it was behind the Assembly of God Church, right down the road. And I think hopefully I can find the pictures of that church, and I can show it to you, because we actually went back and later on and took some pictures on the step. I was standing on the step. Mom Corey had taken some pictures of us there. So we had a parking place that we went. It was odd. Probably most people that I know don't have a parking place behind a church. They probably want to get away from church for some of the things they did when they were parking. But I thought it was real funny that day. We were back there and enjoying music, and and I had my little tape player on as 8-track. You probably don't know what that is. 8-track tape in my car, and we were listening, and all of a sudden some hunters came up and started shining their light in the car, and it kind of spooked us out, so we took off. So anyhow, we got back, and then it wasn't long after that I had to report to Liberty, Texas, to be inducted in the military. And so I went down, and it was kind of an odd situation when you're standing around in a room with, I don't know how many men, 30, 40, 50 men. They're going the same thing, and you're standing around there without any clothes on and just a little bag over yourself with all your valuables. Is not a very good feeling, But I went through the physical and everything, and the time back there, if you had some physical problems, you weren't supposed to be inducted. You weren't supposed to get into the military, because if you couldn't hear, or you were flat-footed or stuff like that, they weren't supposed to take you. But that didn't seem to matter. I remember the hearing test, and this guy had these earmugs on, earphone type things on, and had it turned up real loud. I could hear it outside of his earmuffs, and they said, "Can you hear that?" And the guy would say, "Hear what?" "Okay, you're good, pass." And the guy standing up there looked like, he was so flat-footed, looked like a rocking chair. He could rock on his feet. And so those things they supposed to they taken in consideration, because you had to march a lot and hear a lot, and that during that time you had to have your faculties about you, because that was during the Vietnam time. And so it was kind of, I look at it now, it was kind of funny. I guess it should have said, "We don't need to do all this. We're taking all of y'all," so because we all went. And I had had my folks to drop me off there, because they knew I was going in, and I told them that I'd contact them when I got where I was going. And I found out that I was going to Leesville, Louisiana, and that's where I took basic training. And I got a couple of pictures I'd like to show y'all as well, of me in the military. Pretty sad sack people here, because they pretty well took everything out of you, when you were going through basic training and everything. And I don't know if you can see this very well. So, I guess if it stayed in the picture, you can see it. But it's a picture of our company. I was in Company B, the 224th Company B, and I don't know if you can see this guy right there, that handsome-looking guy right there, but that's me. And so that was our picture of our company. You see that? Sometimes you might be able to see it very well, but it's a black and white picture. But anyhow, so everything I tell you is true. I'm showing you pictures to validate everything that I do and say to you, and I think it's very important that you see these things too and know this is a story, true love story. I had someone reach out to me about the videos I made about intimacy, and they talked about this is something that we need to do, say in the church. And a lot of people can't talk to you about this unless they've actually experienced it, because a lot of times people teach you things and things that they've never experienced and never went through in their lives, and so it's not real in a sense. They're telling someone else's story, but I'm telling you my story. And so also to add another picture here I wanted to show you, when I was, you can see that right there. It was a pretty sad looking face there, huh? Going into the military. And then I have some more pictures of when I was in basic training. I don't know if you can see some of that. GI Tim right there, okay, at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And then a picture of me here wishing I could go home. I wrote on the back of this, I don't like this one. And and then also too, a picture of me later on too, you know, in my military uniform. And then one more picture, and then this was way after I got out of basic training, but there I was. So folks, I was really in the Army. And so anyhow, going through basic training, I was inducted in the Army in December the 4th, 1970, right at the end of year 1970. I wouldn't start basic training, or did I start basic training? Yeah, I started basic training December the 4th, and we were allowed to go after we finished a part of basic training. I guess it really wasn't. We started basic training, and we were inducted in, and we were kind of in a holding position until we knew where we was going to be at and everything. And so I was trying to get to know everybody that was around me, and it was kind of a strange situation, you know, back in those days. And because we was trying to meet everybody and know what kind of folks we were around, and just because we were going to be with these guys for a long time during basic training, and then AIT, advanced infantry training, and so forth and so on. So I began to call those things be not as they were, even when I was in basic training. And I said, I'm going to get through this. You know, I see me making rank real quick. I listen to what my dad says. I listen to what my authority said, and I'm going to be a good soldier. I don't want to be here, but I'm here, and I'm going to make the very best of it. And so when I started meeting some of the guys, you know, and talking to them, got some of their history and some of their backstory, and I was kind of wowed by some, because I asked this one guy, I said, what are you doing in here? And he said, well, I enlisted. I said, oh, you did? He said, well, how about you? I was drafted. I said, I was drafted in the military, and I'm property of the U.S. government now. And I said, wow, yeah, did you want to be drafted? Did you want to enlist? And he said, no, but I did. I said, well, why did you enlist? He said, well, I had two choices. I could either come to the military or go to prison. I thought, oh my Lord, here I am with some enemy already in the camp, so to speak. And so it was quite an experience to get to know everybody, and I met some great guys there. I even met some guys that I had played baseball with a long time ago. One of my friends there was from Jasper, Texas, and he ended up being inducted into the major leagues. He was a pitcher, and him and I used to go play pitch and stuff while we were still waiting to see where we were supposed to go. Well, by that time, you know, they had to issue all our clothes, and it's kind of like a military. You're either too big or too small, and your clothes is the same way, you know. And so they issued all our clothes, and so that's kind of where we knew what we were going to have. We got a big duffel bag and everything stuck in it, and so I kept trying to know everybody, so we would know what to expect, and knew what kind of characters I was around. And how maybe I could even speak into their lives about Christ as we went along. But I'm going to end the kind of the story there and pick up again, because I don't like to make these very long so that you can enjoy them. And so I will end as we always end. I said, I always say what Carolyn always said: we are eternal, and we'll talk to you later. And I'll be back here real quick to get the rest of my story in. So you have a good day, and I will talk to you here shortly. Thank you.